The last thing the Nevada dispatcher had heard in the early morning call for help was a man's voice saying his apartment was on fire. But what the dispatcher didn't know was that the caller, Felix Bannon, was blind. When their raft crashed into a bridge pillar and flipped over, a group of 6 women, most of whom had never been rafting before, and their guide, were thrown into the swift-moving river with water temperatures near freezing. When 16-year-old Andrea Jones fell from a 4th-floor condo balcony, witnesses rushed to her aid. But there was little anyone could do except encourage her to keep fighting to stay alive until help could arrive. When Steve Scott was forced to land his hang glider into the rough, frigid waters off the Oregon coast, those watching from the shore could do little but go to get help. When their pickup truck crashed in an isolated area of the Everglades, 3 friends were stranded, with one of them, Rick Johnson, in desperate need of emergency medical care. Dave O'Black decided the only hope of saving Rick's life was to run to get help at the nearest town more than 15 miles away. When an avalanche roared down the Teton Mountains, a wall of snow slammed into Don Fish's snowplow, sweeping it off the road and burying it with him still inside. Don's fellow workers kept trying to reach him on the radio, but no one knew where he was. When Michael Chapman was thrown from his horse in a pasture behind his father's house, his head smashed against a tree. While one friend, Greg Weaver, fought to keep his airway open, Joe Newman raced to get Michael's father. When Dave Baker went to the aid of Greg Hunchar, he too was electrocuted by the high-voltage power lines downed in the accident. Dave needed immediate medical attention, but the people who had come to his aid had no idea when or if the professional rescue workers would arrive. There had been no sign of Thomas and Katie Pettigrew for 4 days. Friends and relatives had begun to lose hope. How long could a couple in their 80s manage to survive on the stormy Atlantic without food or water in a small open boat? When Kendra Eads' heart stopped beating after breaking a glass storm door, Dewart Eads and his wife Leah did all they could to try and save her. But despite their best efforts, they were losing the battle to keep their 5-year-old granddaughter alive. 911 dispatcher Heidi Foley was still on the phone with 11-year-old Katrina Rollis when an intruder entered the young girl's bedroom. The last thing the dispatcher heard was her scream for help. Within minutes of awakening to find an intruder inside her bedroom, Annette Armour had managed to grab her 5-year-old son Larry and escape. Deaf since birth and with no phone in her house, Annette desperately needed help. Her 2 young children were still trapped inside. When Charles Day lost control of the flatbed truck he was driving, its cargo of beehives spilled on the roadside, setting loose millions of agitated bees. Charles was trapped inside the wreckage. As the massive swarm attacked, his nephew Michael Brown struggled to free him. Christopher Chambers had fallen 12 feet underground into a narrow dirt shaft drilled for soil samples. Recent rains had left the area saturated. No one knew how much water was in the bottom of the shaft, nor how long the 2-year-old boy would be able to breathe down there. While driving home from a late work shift, Joe Shapinski spotted a vehicle that was in a shallow gully off the side of the road with its hood in flames and stopped to check if anyone was trapped inside. When 12-year-old Susanna Jeanson was struck by a car on a church camp outing, she was pinned beneath the vehicle. Her father, Don, watched helplessly as he waited for the rescue units to arrive. While trimming the hedges in his yard, 27-year-old John Allen suddenly collapsed. His wife Connie's screams brought a neighbor to the scene, but John was showing no signs of life.